These pearls of wisdom are brought to you by Carl Johnson and members of the Oyster Bay Church of Christ, located at 1044 Shadeville Road, which is 4 miles east of Crawfordville, Florida.
Outthinking God. To outthink and outsmart an opponent in chess, one must focus on both creativity and psychological tactics. By constantly evaluating the position and thinking beyond the obvious moves, you can anticipate and counter your opponent's strategies. Creating unexpected threats and diversions forces your opponent to react rather than act freely. Mind games, such as sacrificing pieces for a greater purpose, can lead to an opponent making mistakes. By controlling the flow of the game and staying 2 steps ahead of your opponent, you can outmaneuver them. While a chess player can study and practice to eventually outmaneuver another player, the same cannot be said of God. In the Old Testament book of Jonah, we read a very well-known Bible story. Jonah was told by God to go to the city of Nineveh to deliver a message to its people about the impending destruction. Nineveh was a very wicked place, and Jonah did not want to go. So he planned to outmaneuver, to outthink God, and he boarded a ship headed in a completely different direction from Nineveh. Jonah's chess move against God led him into a great storm, and a great fish swallowed him whole and kept him there for 3 days and 3 nights. In chapter 2 of the book of Jonah, he prays to God in repentance. He acknowledges God's power and God's mercy, and Jonah vows to fulfill his mission. Because of this repentance, in chapter 3, Jonah does eventually make it to the city of Nineveh to preach, and the city repents from their awful ways. God, seeing their repentance, shows mercy and spares the city from destruction. In Exodus chapter 3 and chapter 4, we also read about the story of Moses, who led the Israelites out of slavery in the land of Egypt. God tells Moses to speak to Pharaoh, and Moses complains, and he resists because he doubts that he is the right person for the job. Moses tries to outthink God. In the end, however, God's plan prevailed, and although still a flawed man, Moses became one of the greatest leaders in biblical history. King Saul was appointed as Israel's first king by God. In the book of 1 Samuel, the 15th chapter, Saul was commanded to destroy the Amalekites and all their possessions. But Saul decided that he knew better, and so Saul spared the Amalekite king, and he kept their best livestock because he valued his own reasoning over God's will. Saul's disobedience and his failure to follow God's commands led to his life spiraling into jealousy, paranoia, and despair. Saul's story should serve as a cautionary tale about the consequences of disobedience, pride, and failing to follow God's will. In chess, the goal is to outthink and to outmaneuver the opponent. However, when it comes to God, no amount of clever thinking can alter his plan. The stories of Jonah, Moses, and King Saul all show us that trying to outthink God always ends in failure. God's wisdom cannot be thwarted, and his plans will always prevail.
These pearls of wisdom are brought to you by Carl Johnson and members of the Oyster Bay Church of Christ, located at 1044 Shadeville Road, which is 4 miles east of Crawfordville, Florida.